In February 2026, a county in South Korea announced something unprecedented. Every single resident, regardless of employment status, would receive a monthly cash payment simply for living there. Within 2 weeks, over 1,500 people had packed up their lives and moved. Halfway across the world, a mountainous region of Italy is offering families up to 100,000 euros to relocate to villages where the average age has crept past 65. In Japan, the government has tripled its payout to families willing to leave Tokyo, now offering the equivalent of $35,000 for a household with children. And in the American heartland, remote workers are collecting $12,000 checks just for choosing to call West Virginia home. These are not theoretical proposals or clickbait headlines from travel blogs. These are real programs with real budgets actively accepting applications in 2026. But here is what the viral articles never tell you. Some of the most famous programs plastered across the internet are completely defunct. Others exist only on paper, with homes that have never been built. And nearly all of them come with multi-year commitments, property purchase requirements, or citizenship restrictions that filter out 90% of interested applicants. Pay attention to the fine print. This is the complete guide to the countries that will actually pay you to move there in 2026, what they really offer, and the fine print that separates fantasy from opportunity. Before we get into it, if you find this kind of deep dive useful, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Now, let us break this down country by country. To understand why governments are literally paying people to relocate, you need to understand the demographic time bomb ticking beneath the surface of dozens of nations. Japan's population peaked in 2008 at 128 million. By 2025, it had fallen to 123 million. Projections suggest it will drop below 100 million by 2050, but the national average obscures the real crisis. Rural Japan is emptying at catastrophic speed. Entire villages have 0 children enrolled in schools. Towns that once thrived on agriculture now have more vacant homes than occupied ones. Italy faces an identical pattern. The country recorded its lowest birth rate in history in 2023. Small villages in the south and mountain communities in the north are watching their populations age out of existence. In the town of Staggering in the Trentino region, authorities allocated funds for new residents but received exactly 0 applications. Not because people were not interested, but because the existing homeowners refused to sell their properties to outsiders. South Korea's situation is even more severe. The country now holds the unwanted distinction of having the world's lowest fertility rate at 0.78 births per woman, far below the 2.1 needed for population stability. Rural areas are experiencing what demographers call local extinction events, where the combination of aging populations and youth migration to Seoul creates communities that will simply cease to exist within a generation. These are not abstract statistics. They represent closed schools, shuttered hospitals, and local governments facing the impossible choice between raising taxes on shrinking populations or watching public services collapse entirely. The response has been a global experiment in relocation incentives. The logic is straightforward. If young, working-age people will not move to struggling regions voluntarily, perhaps they will move for money. But how much money and under what conditions? That is where the details matter enormously. We will start with the newest and least known program, then work our way to the most famous, separating verified opportunities from internet mythology along the way. In December 2025, South Korea launched something no other nation has attempted at scale, a universal basic income specifically tied to rural residency. The Rural Basic Income Pilot covers 10 designated depopulation zones, starting with Yeoncheon County near the North Korean border. Every registered resident receives 150,000 Korean won per month, approximately $110, paid in local vouchers regardless of employment status. A family of 4 collects 600,000 won monthly, totaling around $10,500 over the 2-year pilot period. The program budget stands at 234 billion Korean won, covering roughly 325,000 beneficiaries across participating regions. Within a single month of the announcement, Yeoncheon County alone reported over 1,000 new resident registrations. The eligibility requirements are notably broad for a relocation program. Residents simply need to register their address in a participating zone and physically reside there. There are no employment mandates, no property purchase requirements, and no minimum commitment period beyond maintaining genuine residency. However, there are critical limitations. The program appears restricted primarily to Korean nationals, permanent residents, marriage immigrants, and recognized refugees. Standard work visas or tourist status do not qualify. Authorities have implemented strict verification to prevent ghost registrations where people claim residency without actually living there. Penalties for fraud reach 5 times the amount received. The pilot runs through February 2028, at which point the government will evaluate whether to expand nationally or let the program expire. For qualifying individuals, it represents the lowest barrier to entry of any program on this list. For non-Koreans, it remains essentially inaccessible. Portugal operates 2 national programs that together represent the most realistic pathway for non-citizens seeking European relocation funds. Emprego Interior Mais provides approximately 3,660 to 4,830 euros, roughly $4,000 to $5,200, for workers relocating to designated interior territories. Unlike most European programs, eligibility extends beyond citizens to include EU and EEA nationals, as well as third-country nationals holding valid Portuguese residence permits. The program covers permanent employment contracts, fixed-term contracts of 12 months or longer, and as of 2025, remote workers. The payment structure delivers 60% upfront, with the remaining 40% released at the 13th month mark, creating a built-in retention mechanism. The 2025 application window closed in late April, with new rounds expected throughout 2026. Participating regions include sparsely populated areas across central and northern Portugal, places where the cost of living runs significantly lower than Lisbon or Porto, but infrastructure remains functional. Portugal's second program, Programa Regressar, offers substantially more money but with tighter restrictions. Returning Portuguese emigrants can receive up to 7,000 euros per person, approximately 14,000 euros for a couple, through cash grants, travel reimbursement, and qualification recognition support. The package also includes a 50% income tax exemption for 5 years. Since 2019, over 30,000 returnees have applied, with roughly 2,200 receiving funding annually. The current application cycle runs from October 2025 through March 2026. This program is explicitly restricted to Portuguese nationals and their immediate family members, meaning it will not help foreign newcomers. For non-Portuguese citizens, the Interior Maze program remains the realistic option. It requires either securing a job with a Portuguese employer or establishing remote work residency through Portugal's digital nomad visa, then applying for the relocation grant as a separate process. If you have made it this far, you are clearly serious about understanding these programs beyond the headlines. Take a second to hit subscribe and drop a like. It helps more than you might think. Now let's continue with the higher value programs. Spain's relocation incentives have generated enormous online buzz, but separating fact from fiction requires careful attention. The most frequently cited Spanish program, the village of Ponga, offering 3,000 euros per person to relocate, is completely defunct. Despite dozens of travel websites promoting it as active in 2025 and 2026, Spain's largest property portal, Idealista, confirmed in June 2025 that these grants no longer exist, and the claim resurfaces as an online rumor. The scheme ran briefly, starting around 2013, and was discontinued within a couple of years. The one verified Spanish cash program is Extremadura's Live in Ambros Digital Nomad Grant. The program offers up to 15,000 euros, structured as 10,000 euros initially, with an additional 5,000 euros after the third year for priority applicants. Eligibility targets remote technology workers relocating to towns under 5,000 residents in the Ambros Valley of western Spain. The program proved so popular that its budget expanded from 2 million to 4.25 million euros to accommodate first-round applications. However, as of October 2025, the program is paused. No new applications are being accepted while regional authorities revise the regulations. A new round is expected but remains unconfirmed as of early 2026. This pattern, programs announced with fanfare, then suspended or oversubscribed, appears repeatedly across Spanish relocation initiatives. The National Housing Plan provides up to €10,800 for home buyers under 35 in towns under 10,000 population, but this functions as a subsidy for purchases rather than a direct relocation payment. For those specifically targeting Spain, the strategic approach involves monitoring the Extremadura program for its next application window while building eligibility through Spain's digital nomad visa infrastructure. Acting on outdated internet articles about villages like Panga will lead only to frustration. Japan's National Migration Support Grant stands as the single most generous and scalable relocation program operating globally in 2026. The numbers are substantial. Single individuals receive 600,000 yen, approximately $4,500. Households receive 1 million yen, approximately $7,000. And here is where it becomes remarkable: an additional 1 million yen per child under 18. This child bonus was tripled from 300,000 yen in April 2023, signaling the government's escalating desperation to reverse rural decline. A family of 4 starting a local business can receive up to 5 million yen, equivalent to approximately $35,000. The program operates through joint funding between the National Cabinet Office and participating prefectures, covering over 1,300 municipalities across 44 of Japan's 47 prefectures. Participation has grown exponentially from 71 households in 2019 to over 16,000 relocated Tokyo residents through 2025. The government has set a target of 10,000 relocations annually by the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year. In fiscal 2025, eligibility expanded to include agricultural workers, medical and welfare professionals, and the self-employed, broadening the pool of qualifying applicants beyond traditional employees. Individual municipalities stack additional incentives. Miyakanojo in Miyazaki Prefecture adds rural area bonuses of 200,000 yen per person, potentially reaching 5 million yen or more for a family with 3 children. Tsuruoka in Yamagata combines the national grant with up to 3 million yen in housing renovation subsidies. The catch is this: recipients must commit to 5 years of residency or repay the full grant amount. And critically, the program targets residents of the Greater Tokyo area specifically, though rules have loosened to include people who have worked in Tokyo for corporations headquartered there. For foreign residents, eligibility requires permanent residency, spouse visas, or long-term resident status. Student visas, tourist visas, and digital nomad designations do not qualify. The pathway exists, but it requires establishing roots in Japan first. Japan also operates the Local Vitalization Cooperator Program, offering a different model: paid positions of up to 4,800,000 yen annually, approximately $33,000, for 1 to 3 year contracts working on community regeneration projects. Around 6,000 participants were active in fiscal 2021, with a remarkable 65% choosing to stay permanently after their contracts concluded. Italy dominates media coverage of relocation incentives, but the reality is far more fragmented than headlines suggest. There is no single national pay-to-move scheme. Instead, a patchwork of regional and municipal programs offers grants tied to property purchase, renovation, or business creation. All require significant personal investment, and non-EU citizens must independently secure visa status because buying property does not grant residency. The most generous active program operates in Trentino, the autonomous province in northern Italy. Non-repayable grants cover up to 20,000 euros for property purchase and 80,000 euros for renovation in 32 designated municipalities at risk of abandonment. The combined maximum reaches 100,000 euros, approximately $109,000. Applications opened in 2025, with a second round running from September through October 2025. The budget stands at 10 million euros across 2025 and 2026, targeting roughly 100 households. Recipients must maintain primary residence for 10 years or repay the grant entirely. Presice Acquarita in Puglia offers up to 30,000 euros, covering 50% of costs for buying and renovating a pre-1991 home in the historic center. Around 50 families have relocated over 2 years, and the town's birth rate exceeded its death rate for the first time in a decade. However, only EU citizens and Italian nationals qualify. Non-EU residents are excluded even with valid residence permits. Other active programs include Sardinia, offering up to 15,000 euros in housing grants for towns under 3,000 residents, plus 600 euros monthly baby bonuses for 5 years. Tuscany provides up to 10,000 euros for purchasing homes in mountain municipalities. Abruzzo mountain communities offer 2,500 euros annually for 3 years, doubling if you start a business. Italy's famous €1 homes remain active across dozens of municipalities in Sicily, Sardinia, and Abruzzo. The symbolic purchase price is real, but actual renovation costs run 20,000 to 100,000 euros or more, with refundable security deposits required upfront. 2 frequently cited programs have expired. Malice's 700 euros monthly stipend ended around 2022 after its 3-year trial. Calabria's active residency income launched as a 2021 pilot with 700,000 euros in funding that appears exhausted, with no confirmed renewal. The strategic approach to Italian programs requires treating each municipality as a separate opportunity, verifying current application status directly with local authorities, and budgeting for substantial property investment beyond the headline grant amounts. Across these 5 countries, 3 patterns emerge consistently. First, the most generous programs require the longest commitments. Japan's $35,000 family package requires 5 years. Italy's Trentino grant requires 10 years. These are not quick paydays for nomads. They are incentives designed to create permanent residence. Second, citizenship and residency requirements filter out the majority of interested applicants. Portugal's Interior MAIS program stands as a rare exception, allowing third country nationals, but even that requires pre-existing legal residency. Most programs exist primarily or exclusively for citizens of the country or EU member states. Citizenship matters. Third, misinformation is rampant. Spain's Ponga grants ended over a decade ago. Greece's Antikythera Island program, which promises 500 euros per month plus free housing, remains non-operational because the homes have never been built. Switzerland's Alban Village program, offering 25,000 Swiss francs per adult, has no current information on official websites, suggesting it remains active. The practical path forward depends entirely on your current situation. For American remote workers seeking the lowest barrier to entry, domestic programs like West Virginia's Ascend offering $12,000 and Tulsa Remote offering $10,000 provide proven models with 96% retention rates and straightforward applications. Practical choices matter. For those with EU citizenship or existing European residency, Italy's Trentino program represents the highest potential return, though it demands significant capital for property purchase and renovation beyond the grant itself. Highest potential comes with higher costs. For individuals already holding permanent residency in Japan, the National Migration Support Grant offers the most generous and scalable opportunity, with the child bonus alone potentially exceeding $20,000 for larger families. Generous support exists. 5 countries. Programs ranging from $110 per month in South Korea to $109,000 total in Italy. Commitments spanning 2-year pilots to decade-long residency requirements. The common thread is demographic desperation. Governments from East Asia to Southern Europe to rural America are confronting the same crisis: aging populations, emptying villages, and young people who see no future outside major cities. The money on offer represents not generosity, but necessity. 10 years of declining birth rates, 10 years of rural exodus, 10 years of failed policies have led to this moment, governments competing financially for the residents they cannot attract any other way. The question is not whether these programs exist. They do, with real budgets and real checks being written. The question is whether the places offering the most money are places where you actually want to build a life, and whether you meet the fine print requirements that viral headlines conveniently omit. The opportunity is real. The fine print is everything. If this breakdown helped you separate the real opportunities from the internet mythology, consider subscribing for more deep dives like this. Drop your questions or experiences with these programs in the comments. I read through all of them. Thanks for watching.